helpful to, if you would take a moment to actually put that information over in the chat for us. And while we are doing that, we do have a few new members that will be joining us on today. And I do believe that we have, I see Dr. Pickman. I do see that she has joined us, and also is Miss Donna on. So at this time, we want to welcome our new members, and we're going to give these individuals the opportunity to just come in, really quickly introduce themselves, and then we will continue on with the welcome and introduction. So Dr. Pickman, if you would like to jump in, or Ms. Donna, if you are here, either one, you can jump in and introduce yourself, please.
So this is Debbie Pittman. I'll jump in. I am en route from Murray Massenburg, topping out ceremony, and I'm headed to my office, but did not want to miss. So honored to be a part of this governance board and really look forward to working with everyone. And I'm going to go off camera so I can drive, and then I'll come back on camera when I'm in my office, if that's all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. I was just going to share with everybody that our customary practice is that typical new members join the governance committee in November, and we will have new members joining in November. But whenever there's a designated seat or someone who has to leave for any reason during the year, we do go ahead and add in new folks to replace them. And Dr. Pittman has been asked by the superintendent to represent the district with Dr. Nakia Hardy, who served for several years, having left Durham to go be a superintendent in another part of North Carolina. Dr. Mubanga had asked Debbie to join us, and we're excited about her leadership and know that she'll be an asset for our work on governance. I don't think Donna is here. Thanks. Donna, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Donna Rewalt. I am the director of Durham County Cooperative Extension, and we also host the county's early childhood coordinator position, which we're in the process of hiring for, and we'll look forward to introducing whoever that new person is going to be, hopefully in the next month. But I'm excited to be here with you and with some of you who I know and appreciate working with and appreciate your work in the community.
Yeah, so we look forward in November to some new, some new to us members that are not previously designated seats, but we always appreciate during the year when we have new folks come on, and we'll work together to make sure folks are oriented and have a deep understanding of the work of this group. So Dr. Glass, do you want to, since it's the first meeting of the year, do you want to have everybody run through and introduce themselves? What are your thoughts?
Yes, most definitely. So thank you so much, Linda, for that. And to our new members, once again, welcome. We definitely look forward to working with you on this committee. And so as Dr. Linda just finished stating, it has been a while. And so we are going to just do a really quick introduction of ourselves. And so at this time, I guess I will, because I'm already speaking, so I will just jump on in and introduce myself. I am Waukesha Glass. I currently serve in the role of secretary here with the Durham PreK Governance Committee. I am an associate professor at North Carolina Central University, where I teach classes in our undergrad and graduate area for our early childhood education program. And we will just kind of jump on in and introduce ourselves really, really quickly.
Okay, I'll hop on. I'm Linda Chappelle with Child Care Services Association, and really appreciate always when we meet every other month. And all round robin, I'm going to pop over and ask Joy to introduce herself, Joy Spencer.
Hey, good morning. My name is Joyce Spencer. My expertise lies in being a parent, and my baby girl just graduated from Durham PreK this past year. I also have the pleasure of leading a nonprofit called Equity Before Birth, where we are focused on getting babies here safely earthside because we know that kind of starts off their trajectory of early childhood success. And I'll just popcorn down to Joy Turner.
I'm Joy Turner. I'm the Director of Data and Provider Relations at CCSA. And I will call on Darnella.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Darnella Worthen, A and B Early Care and Education. I represent the provider community here in the Durham area. Excited about the work of this committee and excited to be back able to sit and really provide input and just see all the good work that we're doing. I'm glad to be able to come back to this table and participate. So thank you.
I'm Tamara Mathis, Director of Durham PreK. Welcome everyone and congratulations, baby girl, for transitioning to kindergarten. I'll pass it on to Sarah Glenn.
Thank you, Tamara. Good morning. I'm Sarah Glenn, Director of Programs with Durham's Partnership for Children, and I'm looking forward to, I know some of you, or I'm getting to know some of you, and some of you I haven't met yet, so I'm looking forward to working with all of you this year. And I will throw it over to Monty Griggs.
Good morning, I'm Monty Griggs. I'm the Senior Director for Quality Enhancement Initiatives here at CCSA. So excited to see all of you again and ready to have a great year of Durham PreK. I'll pass it on to Xavier.
Hey, Xavier Cason, Durham Public Schools Foundation, Director of Community Schools. And pass it over to Maggie.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maggie West, and I'm with CCSA, the Durham PreK Workforce Support Program Manager. And I will pass it to June.
Yes, good morning. I'm June Schuliter, and I'm here as a provider of a local childcare program. We also host a Durham PreK classroom here. It's good to see everybody.
I'll go. My name is Jenna Fuchs. I'm the Durham PreK Manager here at CCSA. Good morning, everyone. I will pass it to Tosh.
Tosh is running the PowerPoint. She may have trouble switching to go off mute. So Tosh is our family engagement and outreach coordinator for Durham PreK, and she's running the slides for us today. So I'll pass it on behalf of Tosh to Dr. Sewell.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Kimberly Sewell. I am the Durham County Manager. Pleasure to be here with you all, and welcome to our new members, and especially my colleague, Donna Rewalt. I was trying to keep up with who has not introduced themselves. I don't know if we've heard from Christy. We may have, but if not, Christy.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Christy Snuggs. I'm the president of Child Care Services Association. So glad to be with you this morning. So glad to kick off a new year of Durham PreK, and so glad for all of you to be here serving and working with us. Thank you so much for your time and your service, and I will pass it over to Dr. Danielle Johnson.
Morning. Great to see you, Christy, and the others. My name is Dr. Danielle Johnson Ofe. I'm the Executive Director with Durham's Partnership for Children. Great to see so many familiar faces and new ones, and looking forward to another year together. And I believe everyone has gone, correct?
I think so.
I haven't. I'm Catherine Brandt. I'm with Child Care Services Association. I'm the Provider Supplements and Data Manager.
Great.
All righty. Well, thank you so much. And before we move any further, I do believe that everyone had the opportunity to introduce themselves, but I am going to pause just to make sure we're not missing anyone. All righty, so we're going to keep moving on. And so on the screen, just to kind of refresh our memories with the virtual meeting protocols. And so as you can see here, mute unless speaking. If possible, have your camera on. Use the chat box at any time for any questions or comments. And of course, we know how technology can be at times, so we just ask that you just be patient with us regarding that matter. If any challenges were to happen, and if you have to leave early, please message Jenna via the chat box. So moving on, we're to the point where we're going to, of course, welcome back to school. And at this time, we definitely want to thank all of our Durham preschool teachers and the support team. And at this time, we do have a slideshow that we will take a look at.
Thanks. So you'll notice that that certainly didn't represent all of our sites. It was just a very small snapshot of the first day of school, and we just wanted to bring it where it matters back to the children and families, so that you'd at least have a small picture of the fun going on with the start of school. So
it just melts my heart as I was watching the slideshow being presented. So thanks again to all of our Durham preschool teachers and of course the support team in that matter. So we will go ahead and move to our next slide. And so on this slide here, these are the objectives that we hope to cover on today. And so because we do not have a quorum, I do believe, we will not approve the meeting notes for our May, but we will take a look at those and address any questions that you may have. Of course, we're going to then share some program activity updates. We're going to provide some information on feedback and that we receive from parent and feedback. We're going to look at the credentials and compensation. And then, of course, we're going to review the apprenticeship program. And then, of course, we're going to have a breakout section where we're going to consider that service for Durham 3-year-olds. And then we'll come back and have a open discussion in regards to that. So at this time, like I stated, we're going to review those notes from our May 2023 meeting. And so we will not have a vote. We will actually approve those in our November meeting, but we do want to pause and see, are there any questions that we can address from those notes at this time?
And just wanted to mention that the copy of the notes that you received as governance members includes the material and information from the confidential section of the meeting, where we talked about specific information about specific program sites. And when we post notes, the notes after they're approved in November, after notes are approved from meetings, we post those on our website. When we post those notes, that confidential section will not be posted because it addressed particular individual sites and and revenue and stuff, but it does, the notes do summarize, you know, without needing those confidential sections for posting on the website.
All righty, so no questions. Once again, we will actually approve those notes in November. So we're going to move along to our program update. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Schmidt.
Okay, and we're going to hear from Tamara Mathis, who's our Durham Pre-K director, giving us some updates. You did receive an update document, and it looks like that graphic that's on there, but we wanted to lift out some of the information. Tamara?
Again, everyone, on this beautiful day. Just some highlights, some program updates that were also distributed, the handouts. As of September 1st, 2023, we have about 1,614 total applications received. Yay. 846 families have been accepted, have accepted their placement offers, which is also a good thing. In other news, we have a new partnership with the Bull City Sigma. So basically is Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. They one for the outreach team is collaborating with them for Sigmas on a national night of event at Cornwallis on October the 3rd, so in a few weeks. But they also supported us with our back to school retreat direct program manager meeting updates, and they provided us with gift cards, about $25 worth, about 15 of those for the site directors for back to school. So about 15 site directors received $25 gift cards. They really wanted to give them something like to help out with gas, but pretty much anything that they could use to kick off the school year. So we were excited that they were doing that for us, and also are going to continue their partnership with helping us offset costs for some of our outreach events. Our annual Summer Institute was held in August, so we had about 7 directors, 34 lead teachers, and 21 instructional assistants. The event included networking, training. We had implicit bias and cultural sensitivity. We had NC Pre-K and Durham Pre-K expectations, relationships with families, managing challenging behaviors, networking with educational institutions, great breakout sessions. We had like what we call a market fair with the networking piece. Just a great time was held by all, especially since it's our first in-person that we've had in a few years.
Yeah, and Tamara, I wanted to just mention that for all of the Summer Institute and the directors meetings, you know, that is a tight collaboration with NC Pre-K and with Durham's Partnership for Children and their leadership for that training. So that we're really pleased that it's a joint effort and that we're able to meet with the sites and go through issues in deep and meaningful ways so that they're prepared for the opening of school.
Absolutely. Next up, we want to say congratulations to White Rock Child Development Center. They celebrated 25 years of service. This was an event they held in Durham, and it was well attended. Food was awesome, and just a great time to celebrate 25 years of service from White Rock Child Development Center. It was an awesome time.
It was, and those pictures are all from White Rock too. So those children are another thing that we always want to do is remember what we're doing it for. So just to kind of get us started with some information and sharing for this year, we want to bring it back to reminding everyone that the Durham Pre-K umbrella of service, it's all about the community goal that we want to reach 75% of the 4-year-old census is our long-term goal for universal pre-K services. And the way we want to achieve that is by enhancing existing public preschool services and creating new seats. So the local dollars are, the Durham County investment in early childhood, we refer to as the local dollars. And so at this time of the year, in looking at seat numbers, we'll be reporting to you about the local funds. So any seats that are touched by the local dollars. Now, the reality is that our entire universe of public preschool seats in Durham are touched by this local Durham County investment because local funds are being used to develop the online interface so that we can have a universal application process and all that. So every program, whether it receives direct local dollars or not, in the public preschool space is benefiting from Durham's investment. But what we'll be reporting on today is the seats that are directly receiving funds from the local investment. At our November meeting, we believe the numbers will have stabilized at that point. Typically in November, we're able to report out on the whole, because remember, our community goal is for all public preschool seats to serve the whole community, and we're unique in that we have this 75% of the 4-year-old census goal. Each individual program targets children with different eligibility guidelines, but the local dollars are the only funds that can truly be flexible to serve all children. So for this year, for school year 2023-24, the locally funded seats this year are at 635, and this little graphic just shows you how we are braiding seats. So for example, you may be like, what does this mean? For example, there are 4 seats at Head Start that are funded directly by local dollars. That doesn't mean obviously that there's only 4 seats at Head Start. You can see there that we have quite a variety. So I'm going to turn it over to Joy Turner, who is going to talk more deeply about these numbers and give you an overview for this year. Joy?
Thanks, Linda. So this slide shows the number of seats and the number of sites for each different seat type, and has a comparison to last year, so you can see where we are seeing some changes. So whenever you see DPK enhanced and then another program after that, that means that seat receives funding from both Durham PreK and another source. So for example, that first line gets funding from the local dollars from Durham PreK, but also receives funding from NC PreK. And so the second line receives funding from the local Durham PreK dollars, but also NC PreK and Head Start. So that's how you can interpret that chart there. The last line above the total that says DPK only, those are only funded through local dollars. So those seats would not exist at all without the local investment of Durham County. And you can see that that's where we have seen the biggest increase and the biggest change in seats, as we've added 34 Durham PreK only seats this year as compared to last year. That came in part from adding a brand new site that meets the Durham PreK standards, and they have only Durham PreK only seats, and that's First Presbyterian Day School. Came on board with us this year, and that's very exciting to add a new program. But we also spread out some of those other new seats across 2 other sites that were already part of Durham PreK, and they added additional classrooms. So last year we had a total of 604 seats at 24 sites, and this year we have 635 seats across 25 sites. But we do have more classrooms than we do last year, because we had two sites last year that just added additional classrooms to accommodate those additional seats. The next thing I want to talk about is the pre-service payment that you all authorized at our May meeting, which was a new payment model that was adopted by this committee. So just to remind you, that payment was calculated at 15% of a site's maximum annual Durham Pre-K reimbursement. So their maximum annual local funding amount that they would receive. We took 15% of that amount, and sites received that in August or September after they completed their Durham Pre-K contract. And they, so in some cases before the school year started or right as the school year is starting, they received this pre-service payment. The purpose was to help them with cash flow at the beginning of the year, because they won't receive their first payment for the child's attendance until the end of September. And so this helps with cash flow at the beginning of the year, and also to help account for vacancies that occur throughout the year. So you can see in the table below, 18 sites so far have completed their contract and have received their pre-service payment. And you can see the total amounts that were distributed by month. And so for September, they received those September payments on September 14th is when they received those payments. The median site payment is $22,613. There are not restrictions on how they can spend that money, but we are going to be surveying the providers later this fall and reporting back to you about the impact of this payment, how they used it, how it was helpful, and any other feedback that the providers have about this new payment model. So you can expect to hear about that later. Yes, Darnella?
The other 8 providers, since school was already started, will they still be eligible for these funds, or?
Yes, so yes,
Go ahead.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Thank
any contracts that are still outstanding, once they are finalized, they will receive this pre-service payment at that time.
Yeah, and this, is a new initiative. Ideally, it would have been received as a true pre-service payment, but some sites had some barriers to getting all of their paperwork complete, and we could not make a payment until that happens. But we will look forward to that information when we survey them to learn more about how these payments made an impact at sites. We know we've heard for many, many years about the challenge for mostly most of our program sites are small businesses, and that cash flow issue is a very real and difficult challenge. And this was a very innovative decision that y'all made to add this. We haven't been able to find any other programs. I'm not saying that they don't exist in the U.S., but we haven't found them yet in terms of anyone providing a pre-service payment. Some programs do provide like a startup payment if a site is new, but the way this is designed to be addressing a percent of their annual revenue. This was additional revenue that you voted on versus the revenue for each months of service. So that's a kind of a unique thing. The other thing that's not addressed here, I'll remind you that you voted to give each classroom an end of the school year unrestricted classroom bonus. And we did issue those classroom bonuses. Each classroom, not site, each classroom received $2,896 in unrestricted supply funds in June for the purpose of, they were not restricted, but we provided them for the purpose of restocking classrooms. And there were 39 classrooms that received that payment for a total of $112,944. So that was at the end of the school year to try to replenish and prepare. And then this pre-service payment was really about addressing vacancies throughout the year, trying to ameliorate the impact of those vacancies throughout the year, but also to address the cash flow.
This was huge. Thank you guys for doing that, because the business aspect of childcare rarely gets addressed. And those are very critical times at the start of the school year. Got to get new supplies, and it's just really a challenging time. So this is really a game changer. Thank you guys for that.
Any other questions for Joy about either the seats this year with local dollars or the payments, the pre-service payments?
So if there are no other questions, I will turn it over to Catherine Brandt, who's our provider supplements and data manager. She's going to share a lot of data with you about some family surveys as well as teacher surveys we did at the end of last school year, and then go into sharing information with you about the teacher and provider information for this current school year. Catherine, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Joy. The first thing I want to talk about is the family survey results. We survey the Durham Pre-K families in May. We conduct our surveys on the phone and online in English and in Spanish. This past school year, we had a completion rate about 30%. Most of our questions, we analyze the whole group and also on different demographic factors. We're going to do a pretty high level look at the survey results right now. I'm happy to talk to anyone at any time about the survey results if you have any like deep questions. Overall, the results are pretty similar across the different demographic groups. There also can be hard to compare the different groups because they're of pretty different sizes. But I have one question here that I show the breakdown by group. This question, how would you rate your overall experience with Durham Pre-K? Almost everyone said they had a good or very good experience, 93%. And you can see in the table, I know it's busy, we won't go over everything, but that there's no group for which less than 90% of the families said they had a good or very good experience. And this is generally true across the questions, that people had good experience with Durham Pre-K, and that was true no matter how we looked at it. So if you go to the next slide, Tosh. So some other questions I want to highlight. Would you recommend Durham Pre-K to a friend or fellow family member? 93% of families said that yes to that one. We also wanted to ask what are some ways we could improve Durham Pre-K. So one question we asked, what would be the most important change we can make to Durham Pre-K that would make the program more accessible to families? And about a third of the participants in the survey said transportation, and another third said availability of wrap care. This is not terribly surprising. We know these are big issues, but the families just reemphasize that. Go to the next slide. Thank you. And then we also ask about their preparedness for kindergarten in two different ways. One, as a result of participating in Durham Pre-K, I feel my child is more prepared for kindergarten, which 93% agree. And we also asked them on a scale, and I've included the graph there where you can see that the most common response is that their child is very prepared for kindergarten, and then it goes down. But there were no families that felt that their child was not prepared for kindergarten after participating in Durham Pre-K. And I think the next slide is some quotes. I know everyone loves quotes about the impact of the work they're doing. So I just pulled some of these out. The first one about a child who wishes they could go to pre-K every day of the week. A parent who's learned how smart children are and whose daughter cries if she can't go to pre-K. And then the last one is a parent who's a single mother, and Durham Pre-K enables her to work and provide more stability in her family. So really touching on all the people we're trying to serve, right? The children and their families. So that's the survey results. Like I said, always happy to talk if anyone has any questions. We look at these questions. We have a lot more questions we look at and in depth, but I wanted to give a big picture overview here. So I'll stop for a second.
I'm gonna hop in and just say that, obviously in the meeting where these are the main themes that Catherine has pulled out. But any of you, if you'd like the more in-depth information, we have quite a lot from these surveys. And one of the things that yesterday, for example, when the team was meeting, we had a 30-minute presentation about these survey results. I think one of our goals has always been to be always looking at a continuous improvement approach, a continuous improvement model, and making data-driven decisions is high value for us. And I think that we will be, when we meet with all the partners we have facilitated meetings throughout the year where we work with a meeting facilitator with representatives from all of our partner agencies, and we will be taking a deep dive into all the feedback we get so that we can try to really address, because one of the things we find is that we're looking for themes. What are the themes that we hear about and learn from parents? But we also pay particular attention when there are things that are an outlier, they're not part of the overall theme, because that feedback is critical also. We're not just looking at all the positives. So, but if you're interested in more in-depth information, just feel free to pop me an email or call me, and we're more than happy to share that information. We will be in our program report, we'll be taking more information out that's not covered here today to share. So just want to be sure you know that. Does anybody have any questions about the survey for Catherine? Okay, Catherine, you want to move to the...
Awesome, yeah. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the impact of the teacher bonus from last school year. So as you all know, the lead teachers and instructional assistants last school year were given a $4,000 bonus at the end of the school year. That was prorated depending on how long they had been in the classroom, but for almost everyone, it was the full $4,000. We wanted to survey the teachers to know about the impact of this bonus on them. So we did that a few weeks ago. We had an amazing response, a 62% completion rate of the surveys. So the things we found were that 96% of the teachers from last school year are teaching in the same classroom that they were, which one of the intentions usually of a bonus like of that size is to retain people. And so that has had an awesome impact. The survey results are just amazing overall. So 100% of the respondents reported that the bonus helped them feel more satisfied with the job. It helped them ease their financial stress. It encouraged them to stay with their current program and made them feel appreciated and recognized. I have a quote here from a teacher thanking everyone involved with the bonus for looking out for the teachers. It encourages them to stay in early care. On the next slide, we have some responses to the question of what was the impact of the bonus. And these are the teachers could pick more than one impact. And you can see that over half of teachers reported that they used it to meet their basic needs, pay their bills, transportation, these very fundamental costs that teachers have that don't go away in the summer. So these bonuses really help them in these really like fundamental ways. And then you can see the other most common responses were starting their savings or adding to their savings, providing some cushion and some resiliency, helping address their health needs, or taking a break and having some treats, indulgences, or recreation, other things that are just fundamental to having a happy life. And I have a quote here from a teacher who says that rather than having to take a summer job and work in the summer, she was able to visit family out of state. And this was the whole quote, but you can only imagine how that leads into a better start of the school year, having spent the summer relaxing or visiting with family rather than working another job. So that's all the information for last school year. So we have the information from the families about the impact of the program on them, and we have the teacher bonus information. Any questions about the teacher bonuses or comments?
I just want to clarify that it was the full instructional staff in a classroom that received the bonus, not just teachers, but also no, it's okay. It was the lead teacher and the instructional assistants that received the bonus. So just for clarity,
Yes.
as you directed us. So.
Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about was some information we've gotten from the contracting process for this school year. So starting with the teacher demographics, this information represents most of the teachers except for the teachers at Durham Public Schools and at one private site, 29 lead teachers and 29 instructional assistants. There's a graph of the racial breakdown. I just wanted to say that we did not ask for the racial and ethnic information like in the way the census does, that is often asked, where there's one option for race and a separate question for ethnicity. We had all the options together, the checkbox. So some people, for example, only checked Latinx/Hispanic, whereas normally you might have that mixed with a different, selected with a different race. So that's how this chart came to be. I just wanted to make that clear. But you can see that about 3/4 of our instructional staff are Black, and the next largest group is white and Latinx. 97% of the instructional staff are women, and 13.8% are multilingual, the most common second language being Spanish, and then there's a few other languages represented. And then looking at the lead teachers specifically, I want to talk about their credentials. So on the left is for what type of license they have, or if they have a license. So you can see that the most common type of license is a continuing license and then a residency. And there are 2 teachers, one with initial and one with a provisional license. And then 9 teachers, lead teachers, currently don't have a license. And this data excludes Durham Public Schools. And then on the right is the number of years of oh, sorry. Go on, Linda.
Catherine, I'm sorry. I just want to hop in on that to clarify. So those teachers without a license, they are in a program in school and have a professional development plan working toward their license. And you'll remember that in Durham Pre-K, if governance has not set a specific policy about a program area, then we follow the state NC Pre-K policy guidelines. And so around credentialing, we mostly follow the NC Pre-K requirements. And those teachers without a current birth to kindergarten license, who are in that no license category, are all receiving additional professional development assistance and are pursuing higher education to complete those.
Thank you, Linda. On the right is the number of years of experience for the teachers who have a license, how many years of experience are on their license. You can see that the teachers tend to have fewer years of experience. We don't have many teachers with a lot of years of experience, and the average is 8.1 years. This might change if we might have updated numbers after we get the Durham Public Schools teacher information. Their teachers tend to be more likely to be licensed and have more years of experience on their license, and so we'll likely raise the average once we have that information.
This is typical that information becomes available later in the year, and we will update and provide it for you.
And then this goes just a little deeper into some of the information that Joy was presenting and what I've been presenting. It compares last school year to this school year. As Joy said, we have more lead teachers for more seats at more sites. We have the same lead teacher to seat ratio, 1 lead teacher for 15 seats. This year, 63% of the teachers for whom we have information are currently eligible for supplements. Sorry, I should back up for a second. As you all likely know, the teachers who are qualified to teach in the rooms, who have these licenses, have higher pay standards than teachers who are working still on their licenses but don't have a current license. And to help providers offset the cost of the higher salary standards, we provide a supplement payment every month. So that's the supplement that we're talking about here. Last year, 54% of the teachers were had to be paid at these higher standards, and therefore we paid a supplement to their employer. This year, 63% of the teachers that we have information for are eligible for these supplements. One big reason for this increase is because this year is the first year for which residency and provisional licensed teachers are also being paid at these higher levels. In the past, it was only initial and continuing teachers, but the change was made this year that residency licensed teachers will also be paid. So we expected there to be a large increase in teachers eligible for the supplement because we have a lot of teachers who are working on their license and have these residency licenses right now.
Catherine, so I just want to hop in for a second, and since we have some newer folks on the call. So you'll recall that during pre-K, we require that all teachers, whether they work in a private childcare program that's providing public preschool or the Head Start sites, all programs have to pay on the Durham Public School scale, including the Durham Public School local enhancement to those salaries. That's very different than some of the public preschools around the country and even in North Carolina. And that is a burden to the private providers. And so sometimes language can be confusing. A lot of times when we think of supplements, we think of an amount that's paid directly to the teacher. This payment that you have authorized goes to the site, and the site then uses it to incorporate into their budget to help pay for that more expensive teacher salary requirement. And, so I just wanted to clarify that we are not paying teachers directly. The only time we pay teachers directly is if we do an end of the year bonus that comes from directly from Durham PreK instead of their employer. But their monthly pay obviously comes from their employer, and we are paying this amount of money, this enhanced payment, in order to help the site meet our standard and our requirement. And again, the information from Durham Public Schools typically comes later in the school year. And once we get that information, we will update it into all these numbers for you. Sorry, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Linda. So yes, the next point is about the years of experience. Tasha, if you could go back. You can see that the average years of experience right now is lower, but like Linda said, we expect that to go up. And then the last point is the projected spending for this year compared to last year's actual spending. The projected monthly supplement amount. So this is what, like as Linda was saying, we pay to the providers to help them with their payroll. We projected to be $976. I just want to add for this number and the next number, this includes the information we had from Durham Public Schools in June, because we didn't think a projected spending amount that didn't include Durham Public Schools would be very useful at all, because like we said, their teachers tend to have more experience and pull these numbers up. And our total projected spending on the supplements alone is $263,536. Another big caveat with these is that we are still operating on the previous state budget and the state salary scale, and Durham Public Schools are still operating on the previous salary schedule, all of which will hopefully be updated soon. Hopefully the legislature will pass a budget soon, and then Durham Public Schools can release new salary scales for this year. So all of this will likely, you'll see these numbers again once we have all of that information updated, but we wanted to provide you with how we're operating right now. This is the projected numbers. Okay, thank you, Tosh. You can do the next one. And then as Linda was saying, we have the salary requirements for the lead teachers. Their minimum pay is related to their license status and also to their years of experience. If they don't have a license, and their minimum pay is $37,000 a year. So there is at least one teacher who's being paid that right now. The maximum any of the Durham Durham pre-K teachers are being paid right now is about $64,000. The median is about $45,000. So that's for the lead teachers. For instructional assistants, their minimum pay is $17.60 an hour, which is the livable wage in Durham. So some teachers are making that. Some instructional assistants are making $23 an hour. The median is $18.36 an hour, which works out to $31,000 across the school year. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was the employee benefits. Last school year, we surveyed the providers in the fall about the benefits they provided. We've since added that to the contracting process. So we got this information earlier this year, and we have it for all sites again, except for Durham Public Schools, because we don't have all the contract information yet. And some of the big picture findings was that all the Durham pre-K providers have 6 paid holidays for their teachers. They all provide paid vacation days. About a fifth provide 1 to 5 days, and 80% provide 6 or more days. Sick leave was more varied, with some providers having no paid sick leave, the majority of providers having 1 to 5 days per school year, and about a third having 6 or more. And the last slide, I believe, talks about insurance. So you can see the breakdown of how many providers provide insurance that is at least partially paid by the employer. Most provide health, and just under half provide dental and vision. 95% of providers offer retirement with contributions from the employer, and for 84% of these, the employer contributions depend on the employee contributions. And the last thing we ask is waiting periods. And the most common waiting period for most benefits to start is 90 days, although this ranges from some benefits that take effect immediately and other benefits that you have to have worked for at least a year before they take effect. But the most common waiting period is 90 days. And I believe that was everything I had about that.
So Catherine, thank you for all this information. I think as we have committed as a program to making sure that we have fair and equitable compensation for our team members, we know that in the early childhood space, compensation is pretty poor across the whole of the early childhood service continuum. But you have committed, this group, Durham PreK Governance has, from the very beginning of this program, prioritized high quality and credentialed instructional staff, and have prioritized compensation as an issue. And so, as we have in previous years, providing you with this overview is really to give you that picture of what it's looking like on the ground. We have seen improvements in the benefits being offered in terms of more sites, more of the private sites providing benefits. And even though the information is not available yet from Durham Public Schools, we think it's important that we separate out and look deeply at all the different types of programs that are providing public preschool services, because we don't want to skew the information. Adding in the public school information certainly skews it toward a more robust compensation package. So it's important that we do it separately. Once we get the full picture, though, we will certainly provide it to you. Tosh, do you mind going back one slide? Thanks. So I do think that, you know, those of you who are really very familiar with early childhood, you know that that employee benefits is a big place where there's a lot of discrepancy in the benefits. And so we feel really good that this area has improved as we have grown the program. So Dr. Sowell, I saw you had your hand up, and then Ornella.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all so much for providing this information about the benefits. And Linda, you just mentioned the point that I wanted to raise about the critical nature of providing, good benefits that could make this an attractive career. So we don't have to discuss it now, but I wanted to know if sometime in the future, if we could provide a survey to hear from our teachers about their satisfaction with the benefits that are being provided, and if there were improvements we could make, where they would like to see those improvements made.
Okay. Yeah, we could certainly do that. We're really committed to trying to make decisions that are based in the data that we can gather. So we can definitely do that. And I've made note of it for our future discussion. But this group, governance, has made so many decisions that have really been key around compensation. And as we are meeting with groups across the state, we find that other counties are really struggling with this. Buncombe County, for example, in the West, they are making some local investments in expansion of their access to their NC pre-K, and they're struggling with this issue about whether or not they can require some salaries and benefits and other compensation that are a big departure in their community. And so I think this is a real foundational issue as we have grown out this program. So, Darnella?
Yes, a couple points. Provide a little bit of clarity to me around the supplement, because I know sometimes in that Durham Public Schools, that supplement is based on, or my understanding of it was based on, like low performing schools or high performing schools. The supplements that we were talking about here were what you guys had added to support the employer to paying those teachers that had the higher education. But what about those supplements that are inherent in the Durham Public Schools salary model for performance and different things like that? How does that weigh in with what we're doing here?
Okay, I'll take a stab at that. So from time to time, there are certainly initiatives that the legislature may address to compensate school systems and individual schools in differing ways. And so there are, the state sets a salary scale for teachers, and then local governments sometimes, and in Durham certainly they do, provide additional dollars to boost that salary scale. When you're talking about like some of the additional enhancements for schools that may be low performing on state tests, or other types of bonuses or payments, those are typically because they are typically one time or isolated bonuses, they're not incorporated into the teacher's salary scale. So for Durham pre-K, what our policy is that all sites, regardless of auspice, so regardless of whether they are a private site or if they're not, if they're a for-profit program, if they're a nonprofit program, if they are a Head Start program, all Durham pre-K enhanced classrooms have to pay on the Durham Public Schools scale. And so that scale is what we're based on. We don't have a provision if the Durham Public Schools, as part of the state school system network, if there's a state bonus that goes to a school for high performance or something like that, we're not connected to that. So what we've focused on is compensation for our instructional staff. This amount that Catherine was referring to, the supplement payments, that is what governance decided in the very first year of planning. There was a real commitment to not creating a program where only initially licensed teachers or teachers who were working on their credentials were hired because their salaries were lower. You know, we know that it's tough to pay those bills. And so we wanted to level the playing field and say to sites, we want you to be able to attract more seasoned teachers. And so, but we know a more seasoned teacher costs a lot more. And so this supplement payment looks at how many years of experience a teacher has and then pays the site additional money on top of the monthly per child service payment to help them with their budget to pay the teacher's salary. Joy, is there any part of that that I can explain better or more clearly?
No, I think that's a great explanation.
Okay, so
Thank you,
that,
Linda.
you know, it's really different. There are lots of other ways that public schools get additional compensation, but we are really all about trying to create better equity with salaries for early childhood teachers. We know though that the benefits side of the house, we can't compete with state benefits. We know that. We're not pretending that we are, but that's why we're gathering that information from the private sites and we're trying to address that in ways that we can. And Dr. Sowell's request that we get more information about that from the actual employees, from the instructional employees, we'll be sure to bring that back to you also.
One last comment as well, retention, staff retention, and I appreciate the bonuses, but there's no commitment in that we're still losing a lot of our teachers, a lot of our talent. And so we want to keep the infrastructure in the early childhood system just as strong and robust and educated. So maybe down the road or in our future planning for the year that we could talk about some type of commitment and retention and keeping our staff just really high talent and, you know, really kind of committed to the field.
Thank you, Darnella. You're right. Hiring is challenging for all of us in the education arena. Donna, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I have just a couple of questions. One is there any information about parental or maternity leave for our childcare providers? I'd love to know more about that. I also, if we are going to, I think the idea of asking people how they feel about their benefits. I mean, any employee in any organization wants more. I mean, that's 100% true. We always do. But I am concerned about delayed healthcare for this group when I look at this combination. I also don't know how organizations handle unpaid time off, which, okay, that's not ideal, but I'd also be curious if they have policies around that. But I am concerned about somebody having 1 day of sick leave or no sick leave. For example, you know, the CDC recommends 5 days of isolation if you actually have COVID. So my other question is, how do they handle something like that? Do they, you know, not do that anymore? Are they just ignoring that? So I'm kind of curious kind of how that comes out. I'm just thinking in a practical way, you know, leading an organization. Actually, I was just answering an email right before this about somebody in our office who, you know, has an illness and what days, you know, they're going to be off and what's happening. And that, you know, and I understand the pressure, you know, here, you know, if you're missing a person, then your ratio is off. You might not have somebody to care for the children. It's very challenging, but I am, you know, when I see this, I'm concerned about people delaying healthcare needs, you know, not taking care of themselves. So just kind of, so if we go and ask those questions, I think it might be good to ask also about the things that we wonder if they might experience as a result of maybe having less of something, you know.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback. And we do have additional information. And Catherine, I know we asked that last year about unpaid leave and also about maternal leave. So we can review the survey information and and
So I just
then
pulled
follow
it
back up
up.
with y'all. Okay.
15 sites reported that they have job protected parental leave. We didn't ask about if that was paid or unpaid, but 15 of the sites did report that. So I just wanted to add that.
Job protected parental leave. Thank you for that. And we can also review that part of what we're asking so that we can, continue to learn more about our sites. So thanks for that feedback.
One more thing, we do align with Durham Public Schools in a lot of ways. This might be another area, schools have dealt with absences and teachers being out for years, and have, even if I just look at, pull up their thing, they have some documentation requirements and things, but, they do have some standard policies that I don't know if they're
right
above or below kind of what the best of these are doing, but it might be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly bring that forth for y'all to review. Initially, when governance was reviewing the compensation picture, it was a heavy lift at the beginning to require all sites to meet the salary scale. And that was a very big decision and a very heavy lift. And now that we've been operating for 5 years and we have a lot of information, we're probably due to review and look at what our minimum requirements are in other areas. This past spring, those of you who were serving, you'll remember that we implemented for the first time the minimum of paying the instructional assistants at a minimum the living wage. That was new. Prior to that, the required minimum for instructional assistant salaries was $15 an hour. That was the minimum. Most of our IAs were getting paid more than that, but that was the minimum. And you newly passed the living wage requirement. And so we're implementing that this school year, and we'll be bringing feedback to you about that later in the year. June, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, yes, just a couple of comments. So, as a provider, I know that what my teacher here has told me is that she's happy here, but what would pull her away is the fact that DPS offers much better benefits. And I don't know what we can do about that because private sites can't compete on that level. It's just not possible. So that's one thing. And then with regard to the absences, during COVID and the pandemic, we did pay our staff to be off if they had COVID. However, that was because we were getting money from the state. And we are not doing that anymore. And of course, COVID is on the way back. We've had a couple of cases here recently. So, I guess we're going to have to rethink that again because, you're really supposed to be out 5 days and then you come back with a mask for 5 days. That's the current rule. So, yes, I guess we're going to have to look at that again. If we start having staff getting sick, we're going to have to start thinking of ways to be able to pay them because we don't want people to come in here sick because they're not getting paid. And it also doesn't seem fair to ask people to use their own time for that, especially when their time is limited.
That's great feedback, June. For those of our members who are on the ground, that's vital for us to hear how it's being implemented in the real world. And I do think you're right that we're all very concerned about the ending of supports around, from the federal and state government around COVID. I think this is the ending of a lot of these supports really could precipitate some real crises. Dr. Glass, we're at the time for our break, but I don't know if anybody has any other questions they'd really like to bring up at this time. Of course, you're more than encouraged to reach out if you have some in-depth questions.
So I am going to jump in to see, are there any additional questions? Really, really great conversation being held regarding these topics. And so we are at our 5-minute break now. So if we do not have any pressing questions at this moment, we're going to take a 5-minute break. We are just a little bit behind, but we'll be right on
Not
time.
bad.
Yeah, so
not
we're
bad.
so if we'll take a 5-minute break and let's return back. It is, where are we at?
I think it's 10:47 or so.
Yes, so let's return back at 10:47. So enjoy your break. All righty, so we have come to the time where our 5-minute break is up, and so we're going to welcome everyone back. And so, Tasha, if you would move to the next slide. And so we're down to the part of our agenda where we're going to discuss our governance committee meetings. And so, as you can see on the slide in which we have mentioned and talked about the early part of this meeting, that we will be bringing in new members. They will join us in our November meeting. And so you will always also see that nominations have been received, and you will see those nominations listed there. So we have received nominations from parent, the nonprofit leaders, and also nonprofit DPK, DPK early education site board members. That seemed like a lot that was happening right there. So we will definitely have those members to join us in November. You will also see that we are still accepting additional nominations. And so after this meeting, an email will be sent out where you will still have that opportunity to nominate individuals up until October the 5th. And one of the big things that we will definitely be doing for our November meeting will be selecting a new chair and vice chair for this committee. So, Dr. Linda, I don't know if you have any additional comments that you would like to make on this slide.
I'll just share, I'll remind everybody, you probably saw in my email that our November meeting, we will be in person. But we'll also have the hybrid option. We are fortunate to have a meeting space at the Jim and Carolyn Hunt Early Childhood Resource Center on Briggs. The room has what's called a Zoom room. And so we will meet in person, but for those who absolutely can't be in person, they will still be able to engage and interact in the meeting using the Zoom room tool. And so that'll be in person, and we will have after the meeting's over, we will have lunch for you, for anyone who wants to potentially stay and eat lunch. But if you need to take your lunch with you, it'll be a box lunch. So we will have that for our in-person meeting, and that's when our new members historically new members join in November. And right now, looking at our and we'll go over our meetings, our member structure more in November, but we are accepting additional nominations. One area that we could really use the nominations from is a local business leader. Right now, we are in good shape in early childhood experts. We're in good shape in our provider members and parent members, but we'll take nominations in any category. So don't feel shy. If there's someone you think would be an asset, please feel free. And we will send you those nomination forms again. They have been sent out in the past. They're not different, but we want to have it at the top of people's email. So we'll send them out again. And as far as the chair and vice chair, Dr. Aruka has been our chair for several years. She's not able to be here today, but she let us know last year in November of last year, she let us know that at the end of the last school year that she would be wanting someone else to assume the chairship. We really appreciated her leadership, and we hope that she'll be able to attend in November so we can thank her. But we knew we were going to need to select a new chair and vice chair. Lee Bordley was our vice chair, and she transitioned to working in the health field and felt like that her 3-year tenure on the committee that it was time for someone else to step forth, especially with her transition into the health field from early childhood. So if you're interested in being the chair or the vice chair, feel free to reach out to me. We are reaching out to folks to to see. What we try to do is make it a very low stress role with staff support, but we think it's really important to make sure that everyone knows they have the opportunity to lead. We do meet with the chair in advance, usually a month in advance of all governance meetings for agenda planning and for forecasting of needs for governance. So, and then the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary have been called upon to have some in between meetings when we had an urgent issue around our program policies. And so we do try to make it a manageable workload, but we encourage you to consider it. So thanks.
Thank you so much for that additional information. And so those self-nominations is definitely welcome as well. So we do look forward to selecting those individuals for our November meeting. And so at this time, we will continue moving along with our agenda, and I will now turn it over to Maggie, who will discuss the apprenticeship.
All right, good morning, everyone. So I'm going to be sharing a brief update with you about our efforts to develop an apprenticeship program for early childhood educators here in Durham. To sort of set the stage for it, wanted to share just some of our central goals that we have in launching this apprenticeship program and additional workforce supports through the Durham PreK. First, our goal is to design and implement comprehensive supports for current and aspiring early childhood educators to be able to earn their higher degrees totally debt-free and to grow in their careers along the way. Secondly, recognizing the staffing crisis in the field, we aim to actively recruit new professionals to the field, building more interest in the profession, and creating accelerated pathways for folks who are interested in getting into the field. Third, we have an intentional goal to increase the number of early childhood educators who identify as Latine and are fluent in Spanish. And that is in alignment with the Durham PreK Equity Plan as we strive to have our teaching staff more closely mirror the demographics of the children served by the program. And fourth, we aim to meaningfully support partnering childcare providers as they aim to recruit and retain highly qualified staff for their centers. You can go to the next slide. This work is specifically and intentionally focused on supporting Durham PreK sites and educators, but also open to any licensed sites in Durham. So really want to emphasize that while we're designing this very much with the goal of supporting the capacity and for high quality early education within Durham's universal preschool efforts, we're also looking beyond that to just build the workforce capacity in Durham more broadly. So we are very open to working with Durham PreK sites and sites that are not affiliated with Durham PreK. Next slide. Excuse me, I'm getting over a bug. So just to kind of, for folks who may be not as familiar with apprenticeship as a workforce development strategy, we wanted to share some of the basic components of apprenticeship. Apprenticeships are at their core a job. So in that job, you're supported in learning and growing in the profession while you're getting your start in a paid position in the workplace. So generally, they're full-time positions, 30 hours or more per week. And of course, they're paid. Apprentices participate in structured on-the-job learning supported by a mentor, and in our case, a mentor teacher, who's working along the way with the apprentice to document their growth and competencies and coach them along the way towards building on those competencies and skills in the classroom. Apprentices are also learning in related instruction at an institution of higher education. So for us, at the associate degree level, that's Durham Tech, and at the bachelor's degree level, it will be NC Central and UNC Greensboro. And then the on-the-job learning and the college coursework really complement and build on each other so that the apprentice is sort of seeing the connections between their college coursework and what they're doing on a daily basis with kids in the classroom. And all along the way, the apprentice will receive incremental bumps in their wages as they demonstrate progress in those skills and competencies. So we're really fortunate in that just as we're gearing up to launch this work, local and state resources have aligned with this shared objective. So we're able to really tap in to what is a growing base of resources to support apprenticeship in early childhood education. So some of the key local and state partners are Apprenticeship NC. So they are the state apprenticeship agency that officially registers apprenticeship programs, and they support programs in designing their programs to align with labor standards for apprenticeship through the U.S. Department of Labor. And then Building Bright Futures is a statewide funding resource to support early childhood apprenticeship programs that's offering financial resources to apprentices, mentors, and employers that we're able to tap into right now. And then, of course, our community college and university partners are central as they provide that related instruction for the apprenticeship programs that leads to the academic credit and college degrees at the associate and bachelor's level, and partnering closely with faculty and staff at the community colleges and universities around things like enrollment, academic advising, financial aid, all the moving parts of being a student while working. And then at CCSA, there's sort of two elements of partnership. One is the Teach Early Childhood scholarships that are available to support apprentices and employers that we're able to tap into to make sure that the tuition is fully covered for participating apprentices. And then in Durham, our role is to act as a sponsor for the apprenticeship program. And that really means taking on a lot of the paperwork elements of the program so that as we're connecting with partnering childcare centers who are interested in participating, they have a much lighter load to bear in signing on to do this program for their employees and for their centers. And then it also means that we're able to develop a cohesive, comprehensive program across all of Durham County so that we can support sort of broad-based recruitment. We can support a cohesive program design in terms of what those on-the-job learning competencies look like, and also what further professional development looks like for participants. You can go to the next slide. Excuse me. So for apprentices, we're aiming to build a holistic and comprehensive set of supports that will enable them to graduate in a timely way, to complete their goals in a timely way, and especially to make sure they have what they need to succeed while working and going to school and managing all the other elements of life at the same time. So some of the key benefits for apprentices are a free college degree. So the Teach Apprenticeship Scholarship covers 100% of tuition and fees and textbooks for participants. And as I mentioned, the apprentice will also be receiving better pay along the way with wage increases incrementally throughout their progress in the program, and completion bonuses that are provided by both Teach and Building Bright Futures. They'll also be supported along the way by their mentor teacher, as well as a cohort of participating apprentices who they can sort of go along with as peers as they're all participating in similar classes and similar on-the-job learning and professional development opportunities that will be free as well. And then just an additional range of resources coming from a combination of Building Bright Futures, Teach, and CCSA funds to support apprentices on a case-by-case basis with other things that may become barriers otherwise to their success. So if that's transportation, technology, their own family's childcare needs, maybe transcript translation or getting a transcript from their home country, whatever sort of things that may prevent them from moving forward, we're able to work through with them one-on-one. The program is built to support current and aspiring early childhood educators. So someone who's already working in a classroom, but who wants to go on towards their next degree can participate just as much as someone who's brand new to the field and interested in getting their start. For employers, the big benefits are right now through Building Bright Futures. Employers that participate in a registered apprenticeship program can receive a salary reimbursement of 50% of wages paid to registered apprentices, which is a big deal for any apprentice pursuing up to an associate degree. We also sort of are designing this program in a way that we aim to improve the pathways for teacher recruitment and retention for our participating employers. And then because we're supporting the apprentice as well as engaging with a mentor teacher at the site, we're aiming to build out increased opportunities for staff advancement and leadership development, not just for new or early career professionals in the apprentice role, but also those mentor teachers who have more experience and who may benefit from the opportunities for professional development to grow as a coach and a leader. Employers will also be reimbursed for the paid release time that the apprentice will receive by the Teach Scholarship. And then we'll be providing the mentor teachers with stipends and free professional development that will be paid directly to the mentor, not asking the employer to cover that additional financial piece as they're being asked to take on more responsibilities as a mentor teacher. You can go to the next slide. So we've been really excited by the interest we've received to date. So since beginning outreach for the apprenticeship program back in June, we've been excited to connect with 108 current or aspiring educators who are interested in completing higher degrees and furthering their careers in early childhood education. 79 of those are interested in the apprenticeship program and eligible for the apprenticeship program, while 29 of those individuals we've been able to connect with other supports through Teach as they weren't eligible for the Durham apprenticeship program. Excuse me, y'all. Of the interested apprentices, apprenticeship eligible folks in particular, 78% of those are currently working in early childhood education in some capacity, while 22% would be brand new to early childhood education. And then you'll see that the majority are interested in pursuing their associate degree, while so I think it's, and then I think there's, you can't really see the numbers there, but 12 are interested in pursuing their bachelor's degree in early childhood education. But I will mention that every single one of the folks who are interested in pursuing their associate degree are interested in the transfer pathway to continue on towards their bachelor's degree after they complete their associate degree. And then that chart just breaks it down as well, so you can see amongst those participants who will be newly enrolled. This is like their first time enrolling in an early childhood education associate degree or bachelor's degree pathway, who are re-enrolling, sort of had dropped out or stopped out and are now interested in coming back to finish what they started, or who are already enrolled and would like to receive this additional support as they continue along the way. Excuse me. So as I mentioned at the top, we have an intentional focus with this work on increasing the number of Latina educators in early childhood education in Durham. So I wanted to focus a little bit on some of the strategies that we're pursuing for recruitment as well as comprehensive support. So we are collaborating with El Centro Hispano, LEAP, which is a bilingual half-day preschool program, as well as current bilingual educators to recruit and support participants using a cohort model. So we are in kind of active collaborative conversation, especially with El Centro and LEAP, about how we can work together to create those cohorts and facilitate those cohorts. And we're also talking with them especially about how we can develop some low barrier opportunities for community members to explore early childhood education as a pathway. So for example, some of the professional development opportunities that are offered through CCSA, being able to offer those a series in Spanish and really intentionally reach out through these partner agencies to participants who could earn those certificates from the professional development sessions and explore the possibility of continuing on in this career pathway and recruit for the apprenticeship program through that mode. We're also really working with Durham Tech to promote the Spanish language courses that they have available in early childhood education. They currently have courses available for all 3 of the early childhood certificates that are offered through the college. So not the full associate degree, but they're interested in building up towards all of their early childhood coursework being available in Spanish. And we're partnering with them to really promote the current available courses and support them as they pursue more bilingual course availability. And then with El Centro, they have an economic development as well as an education department, and that already provides really holistic person-centered support for their participants. And so we're sort of discussing what it will look like to collaborate together to really make sure that enrollment processes can be smooth and promoting success for English language learners at the community college. And then we're also working through those networks to recruit folks who may be offering family, friend, and neighbor care now, or who are parents and other community caregivers who may have an interest in a career in early childhood education, and supporting this population in particular in pursuing degrees and growing in their own compensation along the way. And we applied with El Centro and Durham Tech to participate in a new communities of practice focused around compensation and degree attainment pathways with the National Early Care and Education Workforce Center. And we should hear back by the end of this month if we're accepted to participate, just as an opportunity, really particularly to focus on our strategies for Latina participant recruitment, and learn from and connect with groups from all across the country who are focused in a similar way. You can go to the next slide. We've also been learning from models here in North Carolina we've been really thankful to learn sort of how other communities are approaching this work, and wherever possible, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but really to tailor and hone the program to the Durham community. So we've connected with lots of great folks who have a range of years of experience around apprenticeship program design and implementation for early childhood educators, including Southwestern Child Development Commission, which has an apprenticeship program serving 13 counties in the western part of the state. Charlotte Bilingual Preschool, which has a really creative workforce strategy specifically geared towards building a bilingual early childhood teacher pipeline. And with WakeWorks over in Wake County, we're on a pretty parallel track with them in terms of timing of the launch of our program, and aiming to stay in touch along the way. And then the Teach National Center is doing apprenticeship work at the national level that we've been learning from and connecting to other models through. And then ESEPS, Early Care and Education Pathways to Success, has about a decade of experience implementing apprenticeship programs for early childhood educators in California. And they're an intermediary for the Department of Labor to support the field of apprenticeships for early childhood education. And Tamara and I will be going to an apprenticeship boot camp with them that they've organized in October that we're looking forward to.
So Maggie, I'm gonna, if you go to the next slide, I'm gonna ask you to invite folks to contact you for more information. Sure. We're way over time a little bit, and we want to. No, it's okay. This is really important work, and we're really proud of how it's going. And we invite you to really reach out to learn more. And as we are meeting with providers and stuff, we'll provide additional information. We really want to be sure we have time to break into our groups to at least take your temperature around future services. So I'm going to move us along to, I'll put Maggie, why don't you put your information, your email contact in the chat, please, so that folks can follow up with you for more information. And then there's also information on the website too. So I'm going to ask Monty Griggs to put us into some chat room. So basically, I want to remind everybody that when Durham PreK started, it was a really work from a preschool task force, and much work way before the task force around the need for early childhood supports. And you'll recall, those of you who were here then, that the task force that was always charged with looking at services for both 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. The task force decided to really focus first on 4-year-olds because of the high need, but charged the community with not forgetting about 3-year-olds and revisiting services to 3-year-olds. So now that we are 5 years in, we wanted to take your temperature around this issue. Certainly, we will have much more discussion. But timeline wise, for resource development, this group, governance, will need to decide on priorities at the November meeting for our work in negotiating with the county around resources. And so that's why we want to have an initial discussion and take your temperature around whether or not we want to at this point advocate for potentially a very small pilot to study 3-year-old services, or if the timing is not right. So Monty, I'm going to ask you to
Okay, I just
Yeah.
in the chat box I put in the link to the Jamboards. If you're not familiar with Jamboards, if you click on that link, you'll be either put in group 1 or group 2. And if you're group 1, use the Jamboard link, Jamboard for group 1 discussion, and group 2 use the Jamboard for group 2. There's a little icon on the left side that's a little square. That's a sticky note. Click on it, write your thoughts, and then it'll be posted on the Jamboard. So I'm going to break out everybody into groups right now.
And we'll reconvene and at the end and share. So I know some of you have said you may have to leave. If so, we will be sending out the information about the discussion. So
okay, hang on 1 second.
So while you're pulling that up, I'll just remind everybody that our next meeting is November 16th. And as I mentioned before, it's in person with lunch provided after the meeting. You'll hear more about that. And also, we will have some follow-up information about this issue of potential services for 3-year-olds. We're not just going to leave it hanging out there for you. So,
okay, ready
ready,
to
Monty?
open rooms. Yep. See. All righty, hang on. Not everybody got put in a room. I'll put people in the room. Hang on. Let's see. I got rooms.
I think everybody's in except for
Debbie and Kate. Kate was, well, Kate got in. So Debbie, let me.
She's in room
Debbie.
2.
Debbie's in room
She
2.
just, okay, she just went in room 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I got to figure out how to get in my room. Oh, I'm gonna join room 2. All right, bye y'all.
Bye. Okay. So, Jenna, any challenges with the recording? We're recording still, right? So Tosh, if you'll go to the next slide.
All righty, so I believe we're all back from our breakout session, and I know that a lot of great discussion was happening. We had great discussion in our group. And so at this time, Linda, I'm going to turn it over really quick just to see if you have any additional comments or thoughts in regards to that breakout session information.
Thank you so much. And it seemed like it was a very interesting conversation. Just to let you know, this is very initial. Obviously, what we wanted to really do is take your temperature. We've got a lot of next steps from this information that you shared. We will definitely provide you with a lot of information, updating you about the status of our service to 4-year-olds so that you can then consider whether you want to venture forth to advocate for 3-year-old services. And, looking at the Jamboard, there's some really great points here. I do think that one thing that looms large is our addressing the barriers for participation for our current services for 4-year-olds, which we know big barriers exist, and some of the least of which are, some of which are transportation and wrap care. And we can also provide you with some updates around those services to help guide you. So when we have our November meeting, we will definitely provide you with some very clear information. I see in the chat, Sarah was asking what % we're serving. We will be able to say for sure once we get all our numbers in where we are, but we've been hovering the last couple of years. We've been hovering at a little over 60% of our goal. So we still have a ways to go, but we'll have our new numbers before the November meeting, and we'll be able to provide you an update that is based on the current year, and that will help guide you also. I know we're we got about a minute left. Does anybody have anything that from this conversation that you would really like to lift out to the whole group? Seemed like there was some good discussion. Anything you want to share with the whole today? Okay.
That's a good question in the chat. I was interested too. Like, I know we have a goal of the percentage of 4-year-olds to serve. Do you know how close we are to that?
Well, as I was mentioning, we were in the 60% last year. No, that's okay. We were on a very strong growth trajectory prior to the pandemic. We did, of course, during the pandemic level out because obviously for obvious reasons. But this year, as we typically enrollment stabilizes in October, and so we'll have good numbers to share with you for November to provide you with contextual information about where we are with 4-year-olds toward our goal, because that's a critical piece of this. The only reason we're bringing this forth for your review and discussion is that we do get a lot of feedback from parents and requests around 3-year-olds. I think that has increased since our neighbors have a 3-year-old program. There's been more attention to it, our neighbors in Wake County. And there are public 3-year-old services in Durham through Early Head Start that are provided. And then Durham Public Schools also has some very small numbers of 3-year-old services. So we'll be sure to also report for that. So we'll look forward to additional discussion about it next time. So Dr. Glass, I think we're in good shape.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much. And so we have come down to the end of where on the slide you see our future meeting dates. And so we definitely look forward to seeing everyone on November the 16th. Hopefully we will be able to see some people in person, but as we see here on the slide, there will also be a virtual option as well. And then you see those other future dates, January, March, and May. And so at this time, I am going to see if I can have a motion to adjourn our meeting at 11:32. Motion, please.
So moved.
All right, do I have anyone that will oppose that? All righty. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining our September Governance Committee meeting. Hope that each of you enjoy the rest of your day. Look forward to seeing you in November. Have a great day. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Great job, Dr. Glass.
Yes, very good job. Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you stepping in to chair today. Thanks a lot.
No problem. Thank you.